How are you doing? I'm going to go through how we should expect a briefing to be if we're crew arriving onto a boat, or if we're going to be a skipper, how we do a briefing. It's really best to have a list. Now, as an instructor, I'm briefing all the time, so hopefully I have most of it inside here, but I break it down in a logical fashion. And we're going to talk about the power or the electricity first, the consumables on a boat. So the first thing is, if you come up and have a look in here, this is where my batteries are, and I've just turned both batteries on, my house battery and my engine battery, because I'm going to start the engine battery in a minute. So the power is on, folks, there. If we look over here, these are my shore power switches, so I know whether I have power coming from the shore or not, and these will power my 220 volt and allow me to run the dehumidifier aboard and any mechanisms that I might want to use. This is the switchboard then. So in a briefing, you should really explain what all the switches are for. Here we've got the lights, the water pressure, the bilge pump, and I always give the bilge pump a run when I come onto the boat to make sure that there's nothing in the bilges. And here we've the fridge, the VHF and the navigation. I always check the batteries to make sure that we've got full power in them. Now they've been charging, so they're right up to 12.9, 13 volts. Okay, so we're okay on those. Here we've got a phone charger, very useful thing, must have in a boat. So at this stage I'm going to check out my VHF to make sure it's working, and I will do a test call with that in a moment. So that's on boat supply, and check her out there. Yeah, she's coming on, and I checked that it's connected to the GPS. It will give the position in a minute. We'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, there's an emergency supply on this one. If the vessel was to sink, there's a spare battery in there. Okay, so this is our control unit or electrics. This is our heating unit, and I'll do a separate briefing on that at a later stage. So power is everything. One of the things where we need to know then is which things use most power. So the fridge uses a lot of power, the navigation uses a lot of power, and the various pumps, they use a lot of power. So just be aware of power usage. We try and keep the light bulbs off as much as possible. The cabin lights are here, and I have controls here. And what we've done with those is we've put in modern lighting, which is using less voltage. So that works and has worked quite well. The lights don't consume all that much light. So we're aware of what uses the electricity, and we're aware of the electricity. The batteries are inside with the engine, and we'll look at them at a later stage with the engine. So that's the first part that we look at, is the power. We check that things are working. So yes, he's got his lat long and it's correct. I've checked it. And I'll make an entry of this in the logbook, because the boat hasn't been checked for a while, and I want it to be logged, the fact that she was checked today. So we've looked at the control panels for the electricity and the batteries. So you should know how to work the batteries and the electricity. And then you should know where all the switches are. We showed you the switches here, the master switches. But in a briefing, you should show your crew where the switches for each of the lights are in the cabins as well. So that's all the electricity covered.